been games that were ahead of their time for their gameplay. There have been games that were ahead of their time for their story. This is a game that was ahead of its time, even though its gameplay and story were pretty much the standard for the time. So what was so unique about Steel Empire? Oh, talk to the steampunk kid down at the thrift shop. He'll tell you all about it. Now, I don't know this for sure, as I am not delusional. I live in reality, not a fantasy world with stupid mustaches and strange eyewear. But I really don't think the whole steampunk thing was as big in 1992 as it is now. Now you see it all over the place, especially at thrift shops. You kidding me? Can't even go into thrift shops anymore. Not without bumping into freaking Emperor Lucas Goodbody III. See, you try to buy a cheap gift for a person you don't even like, you have to deal with all these steampunk hipsters. Welcome to 2014, everyone. This is the future. We were promised hoverboards. We got monocles. Anyway, point is, when this game was originally released 22 years ago, you didn't see this steampunk stuff. I mean, I'm sure it was a thing, but it wasn't as big of a thing. So it makes a lot of sense to take Steel Empire, a steampunk game based on one of the definitive books in steampunk culture or whatever, and put it out now, when it's more mainstream. Only problem is, you can't fashion a 3DS out of springs and gears, so its target audience will never get to play it anyway. Well, I'll tell you what though, playing this game now makes me wish it was still 1992. Not because the most annoying thing people wore back then were starter jackets, which were the opposite of annoying, but because video games were awesome. This game is awesome. It's way more awesome than the crap that comes out today. It costs $1 billion to make. It takes 7 weeks of your life to actually play. Steel Empire is a video game, not a thesis on interpersonal human relationships in the face of heavy aerial fire or something, which probably isn't even real. It sounds like modern gaming to me. So, what I've been trying to say for the last few minutes by complaining like an old person is that this is a remake. It's the 1992 Genesis game, brought back on the 3DS. And brought back pretty damn well, too. I've always liked Steel Empire. It was a solid shooter with a great style that really set it apart from all the space shooters at the time. And the thing about releasing it now is that side-scrolling shoot-em-ups aren't quite as overdone as they were in 1992. So the game actually seems fresher now than it did back then. So what's it like? Well, there are 7 levels, each inspired by the steampunk concept. So there's massive airships, floating cities in the clouds, some silly facial hair. And again, that alone was enough to make Steel Empire unique. It really did stand out back then thanks to its tremendous art, and it looks even better now. It hasn't gotten a serious overhaul, but everything looks sharper and clearer, and the colors are a lot bolder too. With the 3DS, it really let Steel Empire look as good as it was supposed to. And it already looked pretty freaking good. Now, of course, the gameplay was pretty standard for its time, but again, going back to it now, it's kind of refreshing, especially given its little quirks. The Steel Empire was a pretty standard shooter, but it did make a few interesting adjustments. So one, you could shoot backwards, and that's used extensively throughout the game. The level designs really take advantage. So you're swarmed by enemies left and right, the enemies loop behind you. It really makes the game fun. And 2, you also get to choose your ride. You can pick between this huge airship, which offers more firepower, or the plane, which is what I picked. It's faster and more nimble. I mean, it's only 2 choices, but having any choice at all was pretty cool in 1992. And actually, that's the drawback of Steel Empire. As awesome as it looks, as great as the gameplay is, there's just not much content. There are only 7 levels, so it takes about an hour or so to beat the game. Which is fine, it's meant to be played for high scores anyway. But the problem is, this new version launched for $30 on the eShop. And even for a game this good, but that's a lot of money for a game this short, so that's obviously something to consider. Well, this is easily the best version of Steel Empire I've ever played. I love how faithful it is to the original, but looking at it in a modern context also gives you the opportunity for improvements, like the graphics, and the music, and the achievements, and the easier game modes, which means more people can play and enjoy this game, which is the whole point of games. That's all good stuff. The price is less good. especially for a game with a 1992 amount of content. But this game's better than ever on the 3DS, but whether or not it's worth that price, that's entirely up to you. Maybe you could barter some old watch parts. Weirdos. It's Steel Empire for the Nintendo 3DS.